Broadcast on SABC3 at the same time. Now joining us in the studio is lecturer at the Gordon Institute of Business Science at the University of Pretoria, Buyani Zwane. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. We're going to speak about leadership styles, and let's start with what makes for an effective leader.
Well, thank you very much. What is most critical for us to be able to consider is that leaders lead whole people. And too often what tends to happen is that the orientation is to be able to look into what I can do to convince the mind, as it were. But what we're needing to be able to look into is that effective leaders are going to be engaging body, heart, mind, and spirit. And effectively, if we're to be able to take ourselves back 210 days ago, when the State of the Nation address was presented, the objective thereof, and of course there are many people that are involved in the compilation of the State of the Nation address, what became critical was the indication of how we will be able to win back the spiritual connection of the country. And effectively, at a spirit level, you're looking into how you build trust. Therefore, that was a key marker of leadership coming to the fore. The second thing that you wanted to be able to look into is clarify our purpose. What are we here for? So if we look into the next 6 months, what is it that will be done? And post that, what will be done? Well, we've had about 30 weeks now of the president at the helm. So we are able to look into what his purpose has been and how it has been fulfilled. The third thing to be able to look into is how you create alignment, which is what the body represents. How you create alignment. Now, the conversation that was raised right at the beginning was about how we could sort out the state-owned enterprises. And that pretty much carries the movement of the body of South Africa as a country. So that alignment becomes extremely critical, and what you're wanting to do is to bring faith and confidence again into that space. And finally, you're wanting to be able to connect to the heart, and the heart of the people is only attained when you are able to unlock the talent of the people that are in your organization and in your country. And as it is right now, you find a situation that for quite a long time, a number of professionals were pulling back instead of coming through and offering their expertise in the rebuilding of the economy and also of the nation as a whole. So what you found in the State of the Nation address, as well as Monday's presentation in terms of stimulus package, is re-engaging the hearts of the professionals. Because if we don't pay attention there, we're going to be in trouble. But also engaging business, because it is those who create employment who are going to eventually bring forth money that will come through in the tax and the fiscus. But also you're wanting to be able to stimulate progress around small and medium enterprises. And he spoke to that. And finally, there's something that used to be there. Lots of people were kind of critical of the presidency. Now you found to be able to have somebody like a Trudy Makanya coming inside the presidency to provide what was being given on the outside, inside. So that's attaining a connection of the hearts and the talent of the people.
Okay, so that's some of President Ramaphosa's obviously positive points, but he has been criticized for, among other things, keeping certain ministers in cabinet when he did that cabinet reshuffle, who have allegations of corruption around them, or perhaps didn't perform to a premium in their portfolios. So how do we deal with that?
One of the most critical things is to, when you're dealing with transition, you're wanting to be able to, again, win those who are in and those who have been seeking to be able to see blood flowing. And essentially what the president has had to be able to do is to ensure that those who are in roles that have been suspect are not just done away with, but through what we're having now with the Zondo Commission, some are beginning to be able to show up as the people that require attention. All that the president needs to be able to pay attention to now is to provide protection for those who are whistleblowing. There's also an urgency around ensuring that the National Director of Public Prosecution is appointed. And there's urgency around stabilizing the Public Protector Office. Because if those are in place, you will find that even those who were kind of like suspect will begin to be able to toe the new line, as it were.
There was this term coined when President Ramaphosa became president of Ramaphoria, and the things that you're speaking about, like business leaders saying they're going to get behind him. Increasingly what we're seeing is people saying we might have gotten a little bit excited. South Africa's in a recession, our unemployment's really high, we are facing consecutive petrol price increases. Where is this Ramaphosa?
Here's the beautiful thing, is that there are global factors that are at play. When the president took office, at that time, the economy was actually at a position where it was improving. Even the rand was strengthening. So in that sense, in his offensive, when he went out to and invite investors to come into the country, everything globally was working in his favor, or in favor of our country. Unfortunately, there are a lot of global factors that he has really little control over. I used to work with a gentleman called Stephen Covey. And one of the things that he would highlight was that there are three circles that we deal with. There is a center. Right at the center is a circle of control. Those are things you can do something about, which is what he has highlighted as the president on Friday. Looking into specific areas where there could be the 50 billion that gets to be reprioritized. That's within control. And then there's a circle of influence, which has to do with those that you can relate with. And in that, as a chairperson of the BRICS community right now, it becomes a lot easier to be able to influence the flow in of funds, and also the tripartite relationship we've got with the West African countries and the East African countries. We could find a situation where, with the relaxing of the visa regime, it becomes a lot easier to grow the tourism sector, and that will improve things. The petrol price, you really cannot control that much, except there could be a revision of the elements that go into it. Because if in our neighborhood of Botswana, Swaziland, and Lesotho, petrol prices are lower because some of the elements are not being carried in there, then we could do something of that nature. But that is for Minister Nhlanhla to be able to address. Because if the president is going to be able to address everything, he becomes more of a prime minister instead of a president.
Let's take a look at what we need to do in order to effectively decide if President Ramaphosa is a good leader, not just saying, oh, we like his personality or we like his leadership style.
Yep.
What kind of qualities do we need to assess, and what kind of a checklist do we need to say this is a good leader?
The first thing we need is decisiveness. We need to be able to have decisiveness, and we need to be able to have somebody who is clear in terms of our destiny. When you're dealing with transition, you need to be able to indicate we're transitioning from to, and that needs to be communicated. And then decision making. So you've got two D's around that: decisiveness and decision making. And what follows after that is an identification of an E, which has got to do with excellence. You've got to have a dedication to excellence and really be harsh on mediocrity. The A has to do with amplification. So there are some areas within our country where the economy is performing very, very well. In the State of the Nation address, you got to be able to hear that the mining sector was to be experiencing the sunrise again. The agricultural sector should be experiencing the sunrise again. If those are going to be that, and the land question is addressed, it's going to be a lot easier to be able to have the amplification taking place. But the final part has to do with the demonstration of love. You cannot rule a country and lead a country when you don't demonstrate love and care for the people you lead.
Thanks so much for your time. Buyani Zwane from the Gordon Institute of Business Science at the University of Pretoria. You can view any of our interviews and features by going to sabcnews.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter, and our hashtag is FullView. I'll be back with more news at the top of the hour. Sports Live is up next.